Chapter 61 Hilarious Daily Life. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The sea breeze blows across the sea from time to time, and occasionally there are a few sounds of seagulls, and everything is blue. If you stay here for a long time, people will always become bored and irritable. After Luffy and the others made a fuss, they all went to rest. After all, there was still a long way to go from Whiskey Peak to the small garden. When Lin Hai was about to take a nap, Sanji ran over with a sly look on his face. Lin Hai whispered in confusion, "What's wrong?" "It's sneaky." Sanji clasped his hands tightly and said coquettishly, "Didn't you just say that you have a photo of a beautiful woman? Come and show it to me." "How can you keep good things to yourself?" Lin Hai said with a smile, "I was just teasing you, I am a serious person." "Bah." Sanji immediately changed his face and said, "So you're lying to me? It's really disgusting. Do you know how long I've been expecting it, and you say you didn't?" Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, "If I don't say that, how can I ask you to tell the truth?" The voices of the two gradually became louder, and everyone couldn't help but look at Lin Hai and Sanji out of curiosity. However, Sanji was in a rage and didn't notice the people next to him at all. At this time, Sanji said, "You are shameless, you are nasty, you are unreliable." Lin Hai was also angry and replied, "Where am I shameless, where is it vulgar, where is it that I am unreliable?" Sanji said, "Where are you not shameless, where are you not obscene, where are you reliable? Tch." After saying that, the two of them turned their heads to the side at the same time. Luffy on the side was full of questions. "What are they doing?" Usopp shook his head quickly, and Zoro glanced away. "How embarrassing." At this moment, Wei Wei and Nami looked at Sanji and Lin Hai with red faces. At the right time, Wei Wei turned to look at Nami and asked weakly, "Are they arguing about those photos?" Nami is really speechless. The princess of a country is here. Can you two stop being so embarrassed? After reacting, Lin Hai and Sanji immediately looked at each other and quickly put their arms around each other. Lin Hai said, "How is it? How did the two of us perform just now?" After saying that, Lin Hai secretly gave Sanji a look. Sanji raised his brows and smiled. "That's right, we were doing a cross-talk just now. We were definitely not looking at photos of beautiful women." After saying that, Sanji returned the favor to Lin Hai. "I saw everyone's eyes twitching, do you still need to explain? Everyone heard the sound just now." "I didn't expect Sanji to answer like this." Lin Hai whispered, "You idiot, you are still talking about beautiful women's photos, aren't you taking off your pants and farting?" Being scolded by Lin Hai, Sanji quickly separated from Lin Hai and said angrily, "What did you say?" Lin Hai didn't care and replied, "I said you are a fool." As soon as they finished speaking, the two started fighting. For a moment, "You kicked me and I kicked you." It was a lively fight. Luffy on the side said excitedly, "Yes, yes, kick, go faster." "Oh Sanji, why don't you use your hands?" I saw that Sanji was punched in the corner of the eye by Lin Hai. Although he was not injured, Sanji had panda eyes in the corner of his eye. Sanji said quickly, "Stop, no slaps in the face." Lin Hai said, "Okay, I won't fight." Sanji said angrily, "No, I will fight back too." Lin Hai quickly hid behind Nami and Wei Wei and said, "Nami, don't you care? Sanji is going to hit someone." "Ah." Wei Wei's face suddenly turned red. Nami turned around and asked, "What's wrong, Wei Wei?" What does Wei Wei say? Wei Wei quickly replied, "No, it's nothing." At this time Luffy said, "I know, Lin Hai just fell in love with Wei Wei's Phi Gu." Usopp nodded and said, "I saw it too, Lin Hai, you sarang." The boat suddenly became quiet, and a puff of smoke suddenly appeared from Wei Wei's head. Her face turned red as if she was about to get cooked. "Lin Hai!" Nami and Sanji shouted at the same time. Lin Hai also said angrily, "You bastard with a straw hat and a long nose, what are you telling the truth about? I will fight you." "What did you say? How dare you scold my straw hat? Lin Hai, you bastard, you are making fun of me again." Lin Hai hit someone. For a moment, the ship became chaotic. Zoro, on the other hand, leaned against the railing and couldn't help but muttered, what a noisy ship. I don't know how long it took, but after making a fuss, everyone was lying on the deck gasping for air. After a while, everyone looked at each other, pointed at each other and laughed. At this time, Lin Hai, Luffy and Sanji were seen holding chicken coop heads. The exception was that Sanji also had a panda eye, which was in sharp contrast to one of Usopp's panda eyes. Lin Hai couldn't help but laugh and said, "Ha ha ha, Sanji, you are so handsome, this fits your image." Sanji said depressedly, "Luffy, we are on the same side, why are you scratching my hair?" Luffy said confusedly, "Didn't Lin Hai say that he is from the same camp as me?" Usopp retorted, "Can you stand firm? We are on the same team, but you and Lin Hai deal with me together." Nami and Wei Wei, who were watching on the side, covered their mouths and chuckled. He he he. Looking at the ridiculous looks of the group of people, Nami smiled and said, "What a bunch of idiots." At this time, Wei Wei found Sauron with a bleeding nose and asked with concern, "Zoran, are you okay?" "It's okay." Zoro quickly glanced away and secretly determined that one day, he must kill this bastard Usopp. If Usopp knew about it, he would definitely cry out that he was wronged. It was Sanji who kicked Lin Hai just now, accidentally kicking Usopp onto Zoro. Zoro was sleeping at the time, and the back of Usopp's head hit Zoro's nose. At the right time, Lin Hai quickly took out a mirror and comb, stood at the railing, and started styling his hair very coquettishly. As soon as Luffy saw Lin Hai styling his hair, he was immediately delighted and said, "Lin Hai, can you give me a hairstyle too? But I don't want the big back hairstyle last time. I always felt that it wasn't that good." Lin Hai spit on his hand, wiped it on his head very coquettishly, and then said, "I am so handsome, I don't know how many ignorant girls are going crazy for me again. Being handsome is also a sin, and I don't want to hurt them." Everyone couldn't help but twitch their eyes. Sanji, who was on the side, originally wanted Lin Hai to give him a hairstyle, but he saw Lin Hai smearing saliva on his hair. Sanji shivered instantly. He'd better do it himself, it's so disgusting. Luffy, on the other hand, is not the same. It's not like Lin Hai didn't do his previous hairstyle for him. At this time, Luffy was looking forward to what kind of hairstyle Lin Hai would give himself. It will surely amaze everyone. Thinking of this, Luffy quickly urged Lin Hai to make a different hairstyle for himself. Seeing Luffy step forward, Usopp quickly said, "Hey, Luffy, Lin Hai uses his own spit." Lin Hai looked at Usopp. Usopp immediately exclaimed, "Ah, Lin Hai is going to hit someone again." Chapter 62 Luffy's New Hairstyle. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zoro was about to go back to sleep when he suddenly heard that Lin Hai was going to style Luffy's hair, and he immediately became interested. After all, Lin Hai's 46-point hairstyle was indeed very nice. Thinking of this, Zoro couldn't help but get excited. Should he grow his hair long and have a hairstyle when the time comes? Cannot be done. Zoro's hair is green, and he knows this. If his hair is grown longer, will it look like a hat? For some reason, Sauron always felt that there was deep malice coming from a certain world, and he quickly gave up the idea of growing his hair long. Zoro continued to sleep, on the side. At this time, Lin Hai looked Luffy up and down, and after some thought, Lin Hai said, "You really don't want that big back hairstyle?" Luffy nodded and said, "No, I can't see a few hairs around my eyes, and it doesn't have that elegant feeling." "Can you design a new hairstyle for me?" Lin Hai nodded and said, "Does it feel elegant?" "This is simple." With that said, Lin Hai quickly bought gel water from Fong Saw System, and also bought an electric dryer that used batteries. Originally, Lin Hai wanted to give Luffy a sweaty hairstyle. Since Luffy wanted to look elegant, this was easy to do. Comb Luffy's hair, use gel water to style it, then trim it, and then use an electric dryer to blow up Luffy's hairstyle. The middle parted hairstyle allows you to see your hair with both eyes. Is it elegant enough? After doing it, Lin Hai took out a mirror and threw it to Luffy. When Luffy saw what he looked like, he immediately swallowed his saliva and said with bright eyes, see Gowie, so handsome, so handsome." Lin Hai slapped his forehead. He miscalculated. Lin Hai said helplessly, "Let me tell you, Luffy, as long as you don't speak, you can definitely charm a lot of beauties." but when you speak, all the secrets are exposed. Blame me for not taking your temperament into account. Luffy said happily, don't worry about those details, I want this hairstyle. After saying that, Luffy hurriedly ran to show off to the others. Sanji, who was coming out of the room at this time, saw Luffy's look, this hairstyle. Sanji wants it too, but his eyebrows are flawed. Thinking of this, Sanji could only feel jealous secretly and cry silently in his heart. Usopp on the other side touched his curly hair. Hey, forget it. When Wei Wei saw the different Luffy, she immediately exclaimed, Luffy, you have become much more handsome. Ah ha ha ha. Luffy said proudly, Lin Hai helped me do my hairstyle. I am also very satisfied with this hairstyle. Sanji on the side was jealous and couldn't help but said, Lin Hai is right, this hairstyle does not match your temperament. Sanji actually kicked himself just now. Thinking of this, Usopp retorted, are you jealous of other people's hairstyles? Sanji said angrily, you say that again? Believe it or not, I'll beat you up, you long nose. Usopp replied, do you want to fight? Zoro, come on. Zoro rolled his eyes and said, if you want to fight, go up to it yourself. At this moment, a black figure appeared in the distance, and it seemed that it was about to reach its destination. Nami on the side interrupted everyone's quarrel and said quickly, everyone, we are almost at the small garden, everyone is up and working. Oh! Everyone immediately cheered up. Soon, the melee sailed into the stream of the small garden, and a cool breath spread all over the body. Luffy suddenly said excitedly, everyone, do you have a sense of adventure? Roar! Suddenly, the roar of a wild beast rang in everyone's ears, and everyone followed the sound and looked over. Damn, why are there tigers here? Lin Hai had only seen this tiger in photos and on the screen in his previous life. How had he ever seen a real tiger? Lin Hai suddenly said excitedly, Luffy, how about we let him be our mount? Mount? Nami and others exclaimed. Usopp held Lin Hai's face and pointed at the very ferocious-looking tiger and said, you see clearly, how can such a dangerous tiger be used as a mount? Lin Hai said doubtfully, sit on its back, what else do you want? Luffy nodded and said, then it's settled. Before they finished speaking, everyone felt as if a huge bird was flying above their heads. At a glance, grass. Is that a flying dragon? Lin Hai's eyes brightened and he said, how come there are dinosaurs here? But this dinosaur seems to regard us as food. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Hai raised his knife and grabbed the huge flying pterosaur and returned to the ship. Because of the weight, the boat shook. Usopp exclaimed, Lin Hai, don't mess around. Nami and Wei Wei were so scared that they hugged each other and cried, I want to go home. The tiger on the shore was frightened by Lin Hai's action for a while, and then ran away quickly. At this time, Luffy on the side pouted and said, Lin Hai, why are you acting so randomly? I still want to ride on its back. Lin Hai rolled his eyes at Luffy, and then said to Sanji, Sanji, it's time to show off your skills. Nanny. No, Lin Hai, shall we eat this? Hey, this is too messy, isn't it? Lin Hai said speechlessly, if you have any seeds, please don't eat them later. If you want to eat them, don't give me BB, grass, don't slap me in the face. Sanji's cooking skills are really incredible. I have never seen this kind of ingredients before, but now I can make it so delicious and delicious. When Lin Hai was taking a bite of food, he saw that Luffy was like a starving ghost reincarnated. Lin Hai couldn't help but said, no one is snatching it from you. There is still plenty of food. Can you make a difference? Usopp said angrily, Luffy, you're here to steal my food again. Luffy slurred, oh, it's delicious. Zoro took a bite of the meat, took a sip of wine and said with satisfaction, I didn't expect this meat to be so delicious. Sanji smiled and said, there are still many, eat slowly. As soon as he finished speaking, Sanji placed the carefully selected meat on the plate in front of Nami and Vivi and said attentively, Miss Nami, Princess Vivi, this is the best, please try it. Luffy said quickly, I want it too. Sanji kicked over, this is not for you. However, What everyone didn't know was that because the smell of the meat was so fragrant, it attracted some creatures they had never seen before. Zoro in the cabin stopped the food in his hand and said, "Did you hear some noises?" Lin Hai nodded and said, "An incredible creature has arrived. Judging from the aura, it is very strong." Nani. Chapter 63, One Sword Style, Brain-Destroying Chop. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When everyone heard Lin Hai say that his opponent was very strong, then he was really strong. Everyone couldn't help but put down the food in their hands, and they could faintly hear the sound of the earth shaking. Soon, everyone walked out of the cabin and came to the deck. At a glance, it turned out that a huge man was walking over. "That's a human." Everyone shouted in unison. Nami and Weiwei hugged each other and cried again, "I want to go home." Usopp and Runner just lay down on the deck and pretended to be dead. At this time, Luffy exclaimed, "It's so big." "Hey, are you human?" The giant showed a kind smile and replied, "Are you asking me?" "My name is Brokey, I am a giant, and I can be considered a human being." Sikuchi. Luffy's eyes shone as he said, "Are all of you giants this big?" Brokey nodded and said, "Absolutely." "Are you pirates passing by? Are you having a party?" "From far away, I can smell the aroma of meat." Sanji went directly to the kitchen and took out a large piece of meat, then threw it to Brokey. "Ahem, that little bit of meat isn't enough to stuff between one's teeth." At this time, Brokey, who had swallowed the meat, asked, "Have you brought any wine?" "I have been here for more than 100 years, and I really want to drink." Zoro exclaimed, "More than 100 years ago? How old are you this year?" Brokey smiled and said, "I am over 150 years old, because it has been too long. I forgot how old I am specifically, ha 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 ha." Sanji couldn't help but ask, "Do you giants have such a long lifespan?" Brokey replied, "Under normal circumstances, the average age of the giants is about 3 times the lifespan of your kind." Luffy's eyes sparkled, and just as he was about to say something, Lin Hai interrupted, "You are checking your household registration. Since this old guy Brokey is so kind, let's have a banquet together." Duong. Before Lin Hai finished speaking, someone hit him hard on the head. Lin Hai said angrily, "Who will hit me?" Nami put her hands on her hips and said, "It's me, please be polite when you speak to me, you old thing, please be polite." Brokey waved his hand and said with a smile, "It's okay. Pirates should be more bold. Besides, I'm many years older than you, ha ha ha." Lin Hai took out a large wine barrel from the space and threw it at Brokey, and said, "Go on." After taking the barrel, Brokey couldn't help but ask curiously, "Are you doing a trick?" Luffy smiled and explained, "Lin Hai is a person with abilities who ate the devil fruit. Sanji, let's have a party." Sanji's eyes twitched and he said, "We're going to have a banquet." "Okay, where's the food?" Brokey is a person who understands the world very well. Seeing the situation on board the Straw Hat crew at this time, he immediately said generously, "I'll treat you to a barbecue. I'll go hunt some prey first, and then we'll have a banquet together." After speaking, Brokey pointed to a volcano not far away and said, "How about we gather there later?" Zoro replied, "Then let's go hunt some prey." Lin Hai turned around and said, "Usopp, move all the wine on the boat over there, let's have a banquet." Luffy said excitedly, "Banquet, banquet, let's have a banquet." At this time, Weiwei said, "If we all go there, what will happen to the boat?" Lin Hai waved his hand and said, "You go ahead, I'll stay and watch the boat, but you have to come back later and let me go. I also want to see the dinosaurs." Although Lin Hai really wants to go now, he still lets them experience it. How can they grow if Lin Hai is by his side? At this time, Zoro said, "Then please, I will replace you when I come back later." The reason why Lin Hai chose to stay was because he suddenly had inspiration, that is, the use of the space barrier with the space fruit ability. From this realization, Lin Hai faintly noticed that his affinity for the space fruit had become higher. At this time, without opening a space field, Lin Hai directly drew his knife and cut several times in the air. Sure enough, it happened. I saw several brick-sized space barriers appearing in front of Lin Hai. Lin Hai immediately jumped up happily to see if he could stand up, and as Lin Hai expected, he could really stand up, but after 5 seconds, the space barrier would disappear. For a moment, Lin Hai started playing happily, and then, unknowingly, Lin Hai kept walking up as if he were climbing a ladder. When he reacted, he looked down and was shocked by the height. Nima. Sure enough, Lin Hai was startled by the height and became confused. Then he was gently blown by the breeze and fell directly from the height. After sitting up again, Lin Hai couldn't help but start thinking, what should he do if he didn't use a knife to cut and create space barriers? Because this move is definitely a powerful weapon when the enemy is unknown. Just now I felt the connection between myself and space, and then I could only cut a small amount with a knife. If I didn't use a knife. Space barrier. Lin Hai felt it in the space field for a long time, and only then did he realize that he was a space person, just like Luffy was a rubber man and Katakuri was a glutinous rice man. When developed to high places, they are both incredible existences. Of course, the space fruit is the weirdest. After a long time, Lin Hai finally understood the truth. Without the use of a knife, Lin Hai was finally able to condense a space barrier the size of a brick, but he couldn't condense much at once. No matter how large the scope of the condense was, he couldn't do it. After all, he had just learned it. Just when Lin Hai got up and was about to go for another wave, he realized that after doing it for a long time, wasn't this very similar to the Navy's moon step? Forget it, although they are very similar, they are just too pretentious. Moon steps requires constant stepping, but Lin Hai's doesn't need to, right? At this moment, Lin Hai suddenly discovered why the sky was dark. Looking up, it turned out that a huge dinosaur regarded itself as food. This is really unreasonable. So, Lin Hai pointed his knife at the dinosaur and said, "Why don't you just squat in the ground as a fossil and come here to find death?" As he said that, Lin Hai was already preparing for the hand gesture, and then his eyes widened, and a powerful overlord-like aura enveloped the dinosaur. Lin Hai roared, "One sword style, brain-destroying chop, slay the dragon." Use the overlord's domineering energy to stun the dinosaur first, and then quickly slash it with a knife, no problem. Chong. In an instant, a white light flashed, and the sword energy passed through the dinosaur's neck, and then dissipated in the distance. So, they were having a banquet, and Lin Hai himself came to the banquet. Chapter 64 Uncle takes you to see goldfish. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Lin Hai had eaten and drank enough on the bank of the stream and rested under a tree for a while, he immediately realized something was wrong. Damn it, how long has it been? Why hasn't that guy Zoro come back to change shifts with him? Lin Hai was suddenly shocked. Who was Sauron? Zoro is a person who doesn't even know his way back home. Lin Hai quickly released his domineering energy and explored the situation over there. Well, it was just like the original. Of the two giants, one was plotted and the other was placed on the ground by Mr.3's candle ability. And Zoro, Nami, Sanji and Vivi are going to be made into wax figures. What's interesting is that Luffy is still sitting there drinking tea leisurely with that little sister Mr. Golden Week. It seems that Luffy has the special ability of Golden Week, the unique ability to control other people's emotions by mixing colors. Lin Hai couldn't sit still now and had to rush over to help them out. Who knows whether they would be able to save the day. Before this, Mr. 5 did not dare to be Lin Hai's enemy at first, but this time it was different. This time, with Mr. 3's strategy and ability, he dared to take action against the Straw Hats again. At the same time, it was also to get the bounty from the two giants, which was a full million belly. After all, he Mr. 5 also wants to atone for his sins and not be hunted down by senior agents of Baroque Works, right? At this time, Mr. 5 and Valentine are chasing Usopp, who is riding fast. In another jungle, there was a huge candlestick, on which stood Zoro and the others, whose feet were fixed by candles and could not move. Two giants were lying on the ground not far from the candlestick. The giant Dongli had already passed out because he drank the wine that was bombed by Mr. 5 and was seriously injured during the duel with Brocky. When the giant Brocky, who was fixed to the ground by Mr. 3's candle power, saw this situation, he couldn't help but secretly said in anger, these people are so despicable, they actually use such methods. Mr. 3 couldn't help but laugh and show off. You idiots, everything depends on brain power, you know. As long as you use your brain, you can win. Why do we have to go head to head with you? Baga. At this time, Sanji, who was standing on the candlestick with his hands in his pockets, said, Luffy fell into that golden weak trick again, and we can't move. Is that the end? I really didn't expect that we would be defeated here. Sauron raised his long knife and said, defeat here? Since my feet can't move, let's just chop them off. In short, I want to win. Nami exclaimed, are you crazy? If you cut off your own feet, how can you fight him afterwards? Lin Hai, come and save us, I don't want to die like this. Wei Wei was also very frightened and said, I absolutely can't die here, Alabasta is still waiting for me to go back. Lin Hai, what on earth are you doing? Come and save us. Sanji said thoughtfully, isn't he just sleeping on the boat like some idiot? Nami was shocked and replied, it's really possible, what can I do? Looking at the frightened expressions of the people on the candlestick, Mr. 3 felt a different kind of pleasure. Mr. 3 said excitedly, yo ho ho, that's it. Try to make as painful an expression as possible. You're struggling in pain. Expressions are the art I pursue. Freeze in fear, Nami retorted unhappily, don't get too proud too soon, pervert. When Lin Hai finds out what's going on here, you'll be in good hands. He's a very bad-tempered person. Sanji nodded and said, I agree with this. Yo. What do you agree to? At this time, Lin Hai put on fake long hair, wore a robe, and carried a gao foam on his back. He was independent from the world and came out of the air. For a moment, Lin Hai's fairy-like outfit immediately attracted everyone's attention. Ding, congratulations to the host for completing a coquettish operation. I will reward the host with a copy of basic sword techniques. Lin Hai secretly spat in mid-air, who is the coquettish system looking down on? Basic swordsmanship. Hurry up and play, what could be more enjoyable now than pretending to be a rival? After a while, Nami reacted and said happily, Lin Hai, you bastard is finally here, come and save us. Wei Wei cried excitedly and said, Lin Hai, you are finally here. Sanji secretly spat in jealousy, pretending again. Sauron said speechlessly, stop pretending to be cool, or destroy the rotating candlestick on it. When Mr. 3 saw that Lin Hai could actually step into the air, he was horrified and said, you, how could you step into the air? What kind of monster are you? After hearing Mr. 3's words, Sauron and the others realized that Lin Hai had actually come through the air. Hey, can the space fruit even do this kind of thing? I don't know what methods this guy Lin Hai used, but it's really scary. Nami and Wei Wei looked at Lin Hai like this and really didn't know what to say. They were stunned at this time. Luffy, who was drinking tea with Golden Week, wanted to shout out, but the emotional fruit caused his thoughts to go completely the other way, and it was really uncomfortable to hold back. Golden Week looked up at Lin Hai blankly, forgetting what to say for a moment, and even dropped the teacup in his hand to the ground. Seeing the reactions of these people, Lin Hai expressed that he was very satisfied. He had lived up to his inspiration and hard work. At this time, Sauron saw Lin Hai still strolling in mid-air, and he suddenly felt unhappy and said, I say Lin Hai, please chop down the rotating candlestick above, stop being so cool there. These guys actually have the nerve to call me to save them. The Mr. 3 group can only be regarded as the scum of the pirates in the New World, and they can be wiped out by the whole army. Thinking of this, Lin Hai joked, you guys had a lot of fun chatting there, didn't you? Besides, how can I destroy Mr. 3's pursuit of art? Are you right? Mr. 3, fearing the unknown, Mr. 3 quickly used his unique trick, which was to use his candle ability to create a huge candle robot. Lin Hai didn't plan to attack him first. It wouldn't be too late to attack him after he was well armed. At this time, Lin Hai dodged and stood directly in front of Mr. Golden Week. Looking at the little sister sitting there wearing a hat, Lin Hai stretched out his hand and said, this lovely little sister, be my daughter, be my partner. How? Only then did Mr. Golden Week react and replied with some fear, "Uncle, who are you? What do you want to do? Don't come over." "Ha ha ha, this uncle." Sanji on the candlestick almost burst out laughing. "Ahem, you don't need to think about it to know that those bastards on the candlestick are laughing at me. Forget it, let's just be an uncle." Lin Hai quickly adjusted his mentality and said again, "Little sister, there are many beautiful goldfish on my boat. Can uncle take you to see them?" "Pfft. Ha ha ha." Sanji on the candlestick burst into tears from laughter. He really didn't expect that Lin Hai was so shameless that he would actually cheat. "Little sister goes to see the goldfish." Pfft, cough, cough, cough. Zoro originally wanted to maintain his image, but after listening to Lin Hai's words, he finally broke through. Wei Wei and Nami on the side blushed at the same time. This stinky Lin Hai is so shameless. Chapter 65 Sad Mr. 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's a joke again. Before time travel, didn't the old-timers always use this trick when picking up girls? Is it that funny? Didn't you see that Lin Hai was inviting his friends? These guys. Lin Hai suddenly said angrily, "Straw hat bastard, you are just relaxing there. I have come all the way here, don't you know how to make me a cup of tea?" With that said, Lin Hai kicked Luffy away. At this time, Mr. on the side had finished dressing up, and he suddenly smiled sinisterly and said, "You guys are too underestimated, aren't you? How dare you not take me seriously? Die for me. Iron Fist." Mr. Golden Week is also about to take action. Chong. A white light flashed, and Mr. 3's armor, which he thought was comparable to steel, cracked instantly, and then Mr. Golden Week was frightened. Lin Hai had no intention of actually taking Mr. 3's life. After all, judging from the original work, Luffy had a share of credit for escaping from the underwater prison and rescuing Ace. This kind of thing is a bit mysterious. But just because you don't take his life doesn't mean you won't teach him a lesson. Room. Sauron and the others were instantly brought to the front of the room by Lin Hai. At this time, Lin Hai's mood was dark, and he said angrily, "If you are unhappy with anything, just blame him." Sauron and the others originally wanted to settle a score with Lin Hai, because it was so easy to save them. This stinky Lin Hai had to wait until now to save them, causing them to suffer in vain. But it's not a bad thing, the culprit behind this incident is Mr. 3, let's beat him up first. Seeing the anger in the eyes of several people, Mr. 3 said in horror, "What do you want to do? Don't come over. If you come over again, I will fight back." Sanji was the first to take action. "Okay, fight back." With that said, Sanji kicked him. Mr. 3 quickly used his defensive methods and waved his arm, wall of candles. Duong. Sanji's foot hurt, and he felt like he had been kicked on steel. Sauron said speechlessly, "This guy still has this trick. What should I do now?" Mr. 3 hid in the wall of candles and said proudly, "Baga, the hardness of my wall of candles is comparable to steel, you." Before Mr. 3 could continue to be proud, Lin Hai punched the candle wall directly, and the candle wall shattered instantly. Lin Hai directly lifted Mr. 3 and threw it aside, venting all his unhappiness on Mr. 3. Lin Hai pointed at Mr. 3 and said, "Brothers and sisters, beat him hard." For a moment, Lin Hai, Zoro, Sanji, Nami and Wei Wei stepped on Mr. 3 to their heart's content. "I'll make you yo-ho-ho, I'll make you proud, eat my kick." Artist? What kind of artist are you? You want to make us into statues? You bastard, did you get a little carried away just now? Mr. 3 put his head in his hands and said, "I'm sorry, please spare me, I don't dare to do it anymore." "I'm sorry, if it's useful, what else do you need the police for? Please pay for the fright we just received. Please excuse me. Aren't you very powerful? You fight back, bastard. You want me to make a struggling expression, right? To pursue art, right? Let us freeze in fear, right?" I don't know how long the beating lasted, but everyone's anger was almost gone. Only then did a few people realize that Mr. Golden Week had disappeared, and Luffy was looking at Lin Hai and the others in confusion. Lin Hai walked over angrily and wiped off the pattern on Luffy's back. Luffy immediately exhaled 2 hot breaths from his nostrils. Where's that stinky woman? I'm going to settle the score with her. Zoro said, calm down Luffy, let's get rid of the candles on Uncle Croaky first, and that Uncle Tori. I saw Cloaky lying on the ground and suddenly started crying, because at this time he thought Dongli was dead. Lin Hai directly used his ability to get Cloaky out, and then said, don't worry, he is not dead, but passed out. Really? Cloaky said excitedly. Lin Hai said angrily, wouldn't you know if you probe his nostrils with your hand? Not long after, the giant Dongli woke up as Lin Hai said, and then the 2 big men hugged each other and cried bitterly. Lin Hai on the side couldn't bear it anymore. Where is the banquet? He, Lin Hai, hasn't participated yet. So, Lin Hai said to Brocky and Dongli, that's enough for you two. It's enough to cry for a while. Why isn't it over yet? Brocky refused. What do you know? I'm so happy, wow. Idiot. I saw Brocky and Dongli crying even harder, and then their tears hit Lin Hai like a boulder. Lin Hai accidentally got soaked in the rain. Seeing this scene, the straw hats next to them couldn't help but chuckle. Lin Hai didn't expect that he would be smashed like this by other people's tears. He suddenly said in embarrassment, why are you laughing? Where's the banquet? Didn't we agree to have a banquet? Nami stepped forward and said, what kind of banquet are we holding? There is a riot in Weiwei's country. We have to send her back quickly. We are just here to supply supplies. Only then did Lin Hai realize that Nami was wearing a bikini on her upper body and a coat on top, but the top of the coat had not yet been pulled up. These are not the important points. The important point is that there is a red spot on Nami's lower abdomen. Only then did Lin Hai remember that Nami was infected with a virus. Lin Hai was shocked and pointed at Nami's belly and asked, what bit you here? Nami glanced at her belly and said nonchalantly, it's okay, it's just a bug bite, just a bug bite. If I remember correctly, it should be in this primitive jungle that Nami has been infected by some kind of rare virus, and it seems that she will not survive for 6 days. Because the 5th day is the time to die. Lin Hai said quickly, then let's quickly prepare the materials and prepare to sail. At this time, Dongli had stopped crying, lowered his head and asked, didn't you shout that you were going to have a banquet? Are you going to sail now? Lin Hai nodded and pointed at Nami and said, the navigator on our ship seems to have been infected with some kind of virus. We have to take her to see a doctor immediately. Some kind of virus? Everyone shouted. Nami smiled and said, are you making a big fuss? I was just bitten by a mosquito. Sanji asked, Lin Hai, are you cursing Nami? Luffy asked confused, what is a virus? Weiwei asked in surprise, have you never been sick? Usopp, Sanji, Zoro and Luffy shook their heads at the same time. We have never been sick. Nami and Weiwei exclaimed, what kind of monsters are you? At this time, Brocky said, I think Lin Hai is right. You should go to the doctor first. If everything is fine, it is best. If you are infected with the virus. Nami didn't care at first, but when everyone said this, she suddenly became scared. Chapter 66 Stunning One Sword. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After being frightened for a while, Nami quickly adjusted, waved her hands and said with a smile, where are there so many viruses? Let's prepare food and go to Alabasta. Weiwei looked at Nami with some worry, and Nami smiled and said, how could something with such a small probability happen to me directly? You are right, Weiwei. Lin Hai couldn't help but said, this is a primitive jungle, rare viruses. Nami suddenly said angrily, will you die if you don't speak? Lin Hai quickly hid behind Sauron and replied, I can't, but you probably can. Nami's face darkened. Zoro saw something was wrong and said quickly, can you please stop hiding behind me? At this time, Dongli said, you just saved us, so let us help you too. Luffy asked confused, help us? Brocky explained, there is a big thing hidden near the sea here, and usually all the ships passing by are swallowed up by it. Dongli echoed, but don't worry, with our help, you can just move forward and don't worry about what is in front of you. Brocky nodded and said, leave it to us. Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, no need, just let me come. If it dares to swallow our ship, I will chop it down. Usopp exclaimed, Lin Hai, why are you cutting things again? Can you stop being so scary? Sauron smiled and said, I really want to see Lin Hai perform that move. Nami said angrily, what are you cutting? Every time Lin Hai messes up the sea current, isn't this causing trouble for ourselves? Brocky wondered, that thing is really dangerous, you really don't need our help. Dong Li echoed, we have received your kindness, and we also want to repay you. Luffy smiled and said, don't worry. Since Lin Hai said no, then no need. He, what kind of adventure will there be in the next place? I'm really looking forward to it. Then Lin Hai, Luffy and Usopp put their arms around each other and shouted adventure, adventure. Duong. X3. Nami crossed her arms and said, really, why don't you move those foods to the boat quickly? Lin Hai was really angry. He was so disrespectful every day in front of so many people. So, Lin Hai whispered in a low voice, you stinky woman, sooner or later I will make you pregnant. Nami's face turned red, but she still said, Lin Hai, what are you talking about? Louder. Come on, do you really think Lin Hai is stupid? Nami must be trying to beat herself up again. Soon, the Straw Hats all arrived on the Mary. After waving goodbye to Tori and Brocky, the Mary had just sailed not far when a huge crab-like creature appeared in front. This creature is more than twice as big as the giants Tori and Brocky combined. Dongli on the shore asked anxiously, are they really okay? Brocky replied, we'd better believe them. I don't think Luffy is a liar, and I think the one named Lin Hai is very strong. Seeing that his friends had said this, Dongli had no choice but to settle down and see how the situation developed. It's just that although the two of them said they wanted to trust the Straw Hats, they were like ants in front of that giant creature. How could they not make people worry? At this time, on the melee, when they saw such a big creature, Nami and Wei Wei hugged each other and started crying. Then, what on earth is that? Help, it's going to be eaten. Usopp hid behind Zoro in horror and said in horror, Zoran, we are going to be eaten, think of a way quickly. Zoro said speechlessly, I can't handle such a big thing. Luffy put one hand on his eyebrows, making a gesture to protect himself from the sun. He looked at the huge crab-like creature and sighed, it's so big. Is this a crab? Sanji said blankly, if this is made into food, I really don't know how to get it. After reacting, Sanji quickly turned his head, and when he was about to ask what to do, Lin Hai had already started to take action. At this time, Lin Hai took a good posture, and then activated Gao Feng's summoning form. I saw that a space vortex appeared again from the left side of Lin Hai, and a double-edged sword that shocked all living beings came out of the vortex. Lin Hai held the handle. Room. Armed color hardening. In an instant, everyone could see a stream of black gas coming out of Lin Hai's arm and spreading to the summoned Gao Feng. Lin Hai opened his eyes and shouted loudly, Demacia. Chang. A domineering magical word and the clear and ear-piercing sound of the sword shocked the cognition of everyone present. The sound was deafening, like Pangu opening the sky. At this time, everyone seemed to feel that the sky was darkening. It turned out that the sword light from Lin Hai's slash was so dazzling that it gave people the illusion that the sky had become dark. What shocked everyone even more was that at this time, the crab-like creatures that looked like several mountains were directly divided into two by Lin Hai. It turned out that Lin Hai had just slashed across. Lin Hai is not stupid. If he chops vertically again, he will inevitably chop the sea, which will cause turbulence and bring the ship in. At this time, everyone was shocked and speechless by this scene. It was rare that this time, Luffy was so shocked by Lin Hai's sword that he couldn't close his mouth and had several drops of cold sweat dripping from his forehead. Although the creature in front of me was eliminated, the upper half of the creature that flew up like several mountains would fall down due to gravity. Lin Hai secretly spat, miscalculating. It turned out that although the horizontal slash prevented turbulence, the objects that fell down would still cause turbulence. Lin Hai quickly turned around and woke up the stunned Nami. Nami, hurry up and take command. If that thing falls, although it won't hit us, it will cause a huge wave. Nami exclaimed, everyone, don't be stupid and work for me quickly. After a long time, the sea level finally subsided. Brocky on the side tried his best to suppress his laughter and said, why don't you guys take a rest and set sail again later? That's right, after the upper half of the crab-like creature hit the sea, it caused waves on the sea level. The Meli had to sail back to the shore and wait for the sea level to calm down again before setting sail. Everyone was really frightened by Lin Hai's operation just now. First they saw several mountain-sized objects being chopped up and flying up, and then they saw several mountain-sized objects being smashed down. Sanji directly took Lin Hai's collar and said angrily, you bastard, can you stop being so scary? I just thought I was going to be smashed to death. Nami punched Lin Hai directly on the head and complained, is this what you said about not messing around? Tell me what kind of monster you are. How did you chop off such a big thing? Lin Hai said angrily, it's so noisy. Who knew that thing was so careless? I feel like I haven't done anything yet. The tone of Lin Hai's words was really irritating, so Lin Hai was beaten again. Fuck, you hit me again, we are partners, who hits me in the face again? Dongli and Brocky on the side looked at each other. Don't they have something to do and need to set sail in a hurry? What are they doing now? Ouch. Please be more mature. Chapter 67 Nami, you are sick and need treatment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After saying goodbye to Dongli and Brocky again, the Meli was already sailing on the vast ocean. Well, now comes the problem. Lin Hai insisted on going to a doctor, Nami insisted on objecting, and Wei Wei was struggling on the side, because just now Wei Wei read the newspaper Nami gave her. At this time, Wei Wei said extremely worriedly, everyone. Originally there were 700,000 king's troops against 400,000 rebels. Unexpectedly, 300,000 of the king's troops turned against each other. Now the situation has suddenly reversed. Nami consoled her, Wei Wei, don't worry too much. We will go to Alabasta as quickly as possible to reveal Crocodile's true face to the public. In that way, wouldn't this war be avoided? Wei Wei nodded and said, thank you. Luffy on the side said, let's defeat Crocodile. Nami raised her eyebrows and said angrily, you have said it many times, if you say it again, I will throw you into the sea. At this time, Lin Hai couldn't help but sneered, are you too naive? It was a battle of millions of people. Since it was a battle, there were already huge contradictions in it. Do you really think that just because of Wei Wei's strength? Can it be avoided with a few words? Wei Wei said excitedly, should I not do anything? Lin Hai asked, do you have evidence that Crocodile is causing trouble behind the scenes? Even if you do, you can't stop it. Wei Wei retorted, impossible. As long as I tell my father and the leader of the rebel army, Kosha, the information and evidence I have collected, they will definitely stop this turmoil. Lin Hai said with a smile, are you too naive? What kind of contradictions and misunderstandings would lead to a confrontation between millions of troops? Let's not talk about this yet, let's make a hypothesis. If you tell your father about Crocodile's plot, but Kosha doesn't know, what will happen when they meet on the battlefield? Sanji said tentatively, we are already on the smaller side, but because of indecision, will this battle become one-sided? Wei Wei was shocked, but still said, I will definitely see Kosha, and I will never let this happen. Haha. Lin Hai was about to say something, but Sanji said unhappily, Lin Hai, be gentle with ladies. If you have anything to say, please tell me. Do you understand? Lin Hai slapped his forehead and said speechlessly, I was angry with them. Think about it, even if Kosha knew it, what if he didn't appear on the battlefield or he had been killed? Guess what would be the result? Also, when Wei Wei heard what was about to happen in Alabasta, her thoughts were too simple. Can a war be resolved with just a few words? Wei Wei said angrily, according to you, what I do is meaningless. Nami rolled her eyes at Lin Hai and comforted, he actually wants to persuade you to give up returning to Alabasta and let us go find a doctor first. Lin Hai felt that his mind was a little confused. After taking a deep breath, Lin Hai said calmly, because the mastermind behind this incident is Crocodile. He has been planning for so long, so he must have a comprehensive plan, so you went back rashly and fell directly into his plan. I am just saying this to tell you that you should consider all these things carefully before going back. Don't let the time come when you can't save others, but you also get yourself involved. Wei Wei calmed down, thought for a while and then said, then what do you think we should do? Luffy said, can't we just go and defeat Crocodile? Zoro said, defeat him, but the matter in Alabasta has not been resolved yet. Usopp replied, so, we have to separate, some of us go to Crocodile, and some of us go to prevent the civil strife in the kingdom of Alabasta. Lin Hai nodded and said, this is indeed safe, but there are many senior cadres in Baroque Studio. They may be lurking in Alabasta. How to distribute them? Luffy said, leave Crocodile to me. Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, Crocodile is a user with the Sha fruit ability, a natural devil fruit. You are the only one who doesn't know how to be domineering. What are you going to do? It's better for me to go, I'll chop him down with one knife. Usopp exclaimed, Lin Hai, can you stop killing people at every turn? Lin Hai said speechlessly, we are enemies with him. If I don't chop him, can't I still invite him to dinner? At this time, Nami said, then this matter has been decided. Let's set off for Alabasta first, and then we can separate after landing. Wei Wei said gratefully, this incident has nothing to do with you, but you are involved in it. Lin Hai said indifferently, you're welcome, these are all matters after landing. After finishing speaking, Lin Hai pointed to Nami and said, the most important thing now is to find a doctor. Nami, you are sick and need treatment. Duong. Nami punched and Sanji kicked Lin Hai. Sanji said, you guy, you are cursing Miss Nami again. Nami said speechlessly, I told you I didn't, it's okay. Before she finished speaking, Nami suddenly felt her surroundings spinning and then fell down. Seeing this, Wei Wei quickly helped Nami up. Everyone else looked at Lin Hai in surprise. Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, am I wrong? What a bunch of bagas. Usopp said in horror, Lin Fan, it turns out you really know how to curse. Luffy exclaimed, oh no, Nami was cursed by Lin Hai. Nami, are you okay? You don't want to die. Lin Hai said speechlessly, didn't you notice that there was an abnormal wound on Nami's abdomen? With that said, Lin Hai pulled up Nami's top and saw some black dots appearing on Nami's abdomen. Lin Hai pointed there and said, see, Nami must have been infected with some kind of virus. Let's go find a doctor quickly. No, it's just like what Lin Hai said, it's true. Nami won't die like this, right? No, Nami, we need you, don't leave us. Wei Wei said angrily, you all should be quiet and help Nami go back to rest first. Nami said weakly, wait a minute, this wind is a bit unusual, quickly turn to the left. Sanji replied, leave it to me. Just as they were helping Nami into rest, everyone looked at the sea level in the distance in horror. I saw a tornado with a diameter of nearly 700 meters blowing there. This scene shocked everyone's nerves, and after they calmed down, everyone couldn't help but look at Nami, truly admiring her. If this were delayed by a few seconds, the consequences would be disastrous. At this time, Usopp noticed Lin Hai making a fighting posture, so he asked, Lin Hai, what are you doing? Lin Hai said very unhappy, that tornado just wanted to kill us, I want to chop it down. Duong. Lin Hai was beaten by a group of people again. You're chopping again. Why do you always like to chop, please stop chopping, please. You bastard, don't you think the current is not strong enough? If you cut me again, we will really have a shipwreck. At this time, Zoro asked, Nami, please tell us the direction of our sailing, and then go and have a good rest. Nami replied weakly, sail in this direction. If there is any change in the weather, let me know. Lin Hai stopped Usopp and the others' movements, stood up and asked, Nami, are you still planning to go directly to Alabasta? Let's go find a doctor for treatment first. Chapter 68 Dao Yun. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Under Lin Hai's repeated reminders, everyone understood the truth. If Nami's disease was not cured first, then everyone would have no choice but to float aimlessly on the melee on the sea. I can't even think about another storm. So, everyone agreed to go to the doctor first, which was the Drum Island in the nearby sea. After arranging Nami, Wei Wei stayed to take care of her, while everyone else ran into the kitchen to eat except Lin Hai, who was on the deck, and Zoro, who was taking a nap. Lin Hai, who was sitting on the deck, discovered a problem. When he treats others, why can't he be kind to others like Luffy and others? Ahem, this is a problem. It seems there is still a long way to go. Bored, Lin Hai leaned on the railing and began to play with the extended training of space barriers. What if you make it smaller and use it as a bullet? I don't know how to point and grab, and I'm not like Kizaru's shining fruit, so forget it in that regard. After all, I still have the domineering power of knowledge and color, which seems a bit impractical, so how to develop it? Attack, avoid and escape. Let's develop these three aspects first. Combining space abilities with attack methods, using physical skills with space abilities, and escaping, all you have to do is develop space fruits. Thinking about those fancy moves, Lin Hai didn't want to waste time, because there are so many moves. The moves look awesome, but if you are not proficient in them, they will be useless when you meet an expert. Isn't this deceiving yourself and a waste of time? Lin Hai suddenly discovered that he thought he didn't have to study anymore, but it turned out that he not only had to use his brain, but also his body. At this moment, Sanji, who came out of the kitchen, saw Lin Hai playing with a few transparent objects and couldn't help but ask, "Did you borrow those things for your last trip?" Lin Hai nodded and said, "Yes, want to go up and play?" Sanji clearly felt the malice in Lin Hai's eyes, and quickly waved his hand. "No, they are all eating, if you don't go." Before he finished speaking, he saw Lin Hai holding the dinosaur meat brought out from the small garden in his hand, and immediately exclaimed, "Isn't your space fruit too perverted?" "But how long can the food be kept in your space?" Lin Hai replied while eating, "It won't go bad." At this time, Wei Wei came out of Nami's room and shouted, "Sorry everyone, Nami has a fever of 40 degrees. Sanji was immediately horrified and said, "What did you say?" Suddenly, everyone ran into Nami's room. Luffy said with rare worry, "Nami, wake up, you don't want to die." Sanji shed tears and said, "Miss Nami, how could you get sick? I give you the best parts of the food every time, and I give them all the bad parts." Everyone's face turned dark. What a beast. Seeing the noise in the room, Nami couldn't help but sit up and said weakly, "I'm okay, I'm either suffering from heatstroke or the thermometer is broken. How can a person have a fever of 40 degrees? By the way, is there any problem with the ship's sailing direction?" Wei Wei replied, "No problem, we will go to Drum Island tomorrow." "Nami, you have to hold on." At this time, Lin Hai stepped forward to take Nami's pulse. Everyone's eyes suddenly showed a look of joy. Lin Hai also had medical skills. Sauron couldn't help but ask, "Lin Hai, can you still take your pulse?" Luffy's eyes lit up and he said, "Lin Hai, you are so powerful." Usopp exclaimed, "Except for his shortcomings, Lin Hai has all his advantages." Seeing Lin Hai's serious look, Sanji stepped forward and asked, "Did you see anything?" Wei Wei said happily, "If it can be cured, can we not have to go to Drum Island?" Lin Hai said angrily, "Can you please be quiet? I just want to see the difference between Nami's pulse and ours. I know medical skills. Let's just have fun while we're at it." Everyone's faces darkened. Sanji said angrily, "You bastard doesn't know how to treat a doctor, why don't you let go of Nami's hand?" Lin Hai ignored the people around him and said to Nami, "Nami, you'd better lie down and have a good rest. I'll let Wei Wei get some warm water to wipe your body down later. This will cool you down and make you feel better." Nami replied weakly, "Thank you, I'm sorry to trouble you, Wei Wei." Wei Wei shook her head and said, "Why are you so polite to me?" Others were full of doubts at this time. Will doing this really reduce the fever? At this time, Lin Hai stood up and hugged Wei Wei's waist. Under the confused eyes of everyone, Lin Hai said softly, "Princess Wei Wei, let's ignore them. I'll take you to see the goldfish, okay?" Nami, who had just laid down, found that her face had become even hotter. Wei Wei was stunned for a moment, and then, visible to the naked eye, the blushes crept onto her cheeks and reached the roots of her ears. Sanji glared at Lin Hai from the side and roared like a wild beast. Sauron slapped his forehead and wondered why there was such a thing on his ship. Ha ha ha. Luffy pointed at Lin Hai and laughed. Lin Hai, you are so interesting. At this time, Wei Wei replied uncomfortably, well, can you let me go? I'm going to get some water to wipe Nami down. Well. Lin Haisong pointed at everyone and said, what are you doing in the room? Do you know medical skills? Get out of here, don't get in the way, huh? Several people looked at Lin Hai's back, then looked at each other. Lin Hai, who had just arrived on the deck, was lying down on the deck to continue studying the space fruit when he saw people pressing up on him. Lin Hai exclaimed, what do you want to do? What are you doing? Beat you up. Isn't Lin Hai the most concerned about his hairstyle? Let's make him a new one. You guy, not only did you hold Nami's hand, but you also dared to hug Princess Wei Wei's waist. I will fight you. Lin Hai refused to beg for mercy and said, you guys, remember it all. I know I was wrong. After everyone was noisy for a while, it suddenly started to snow. Luffy was immediately surprised and said, Lin Hai, quickly take out that sweet thing you had last time, let's eat ice cream again. Usopp said, it's not possible now. It's just such a small amount of snow that it can't be pinched at all. Lin Hai glared at everyone, then took out his fishing rod and started catching fish. Luffy and Usopp looked at each other. Will there be another fish to eat later? That one tastes better than ice cream. However, after a while, Luffy said with confusion, Lin Hai, you are so lazy today. I even caught fish, but you didn't catch any. Lin Hai said enigmatically, what do you know? I am comprehending the rhyme of the Tao, Dao Yun. It sounds like a big deal. Everyone looked at Lin Hai curiously. Zoro didn't sleep anymore. He walked to Lin Hai curiously and asked, can you tell me in detail? Chapter 69 Daily Coquettishness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Say what? Do you want to tell them that Lin Hai was wondering why Wei Wei's skin was so much whiter than Nami's? But this ratio is already fake, so why is it round? Ahem. Lin Hai adjusted his posture, then looked into the distance inscrutably, and said, the Tao is Tao, but it is not Tao. The name is nameable, but it is very famous. Although Luffy and Usopp didn't understand what Lin Hai was talking about, they seemed to have an unknown feeling. Silk cake. There's more, keep talking. Lin Hai was very confused. When he was studying in school, he only remembered this sentence in the article about Tao. What did he say next? Suddenly an idea flashed, and Lin Hai suddenly became energetic. Ahem. Lin Hai continued, actually, if I say advanced, you don't understand, so I'll make it easier to understand. That is, sit here and feel the subtle changes in the environment, so as to understand the operation of all things. The rules. At this time, Sanji came over with a cigarette in his mouth and said funnily, what you said means you didn't say it, right? Damn it, Sanji is forcing himself to use a trick. As a result, Lin Hai continued to look into the distance, also biting a cigarette, and then said slowly, absolute movement and relative stillness show that movement is irreversible, and time is just a conceptual expression of movement. In other words, I want to go back to the past. At this point, Lin Hai couldn't go on. He originally wanted to say that it was impossible to go back to the past, but in this world, if Lin Hai guessed correctly, there was a time fruit, right? It's so speechless. When everyone heard this and saw why Lin Hai didn't say anything, Zoro was curious and asked, what's behind? Ahem, cough. Lin Hai said, what else can there be? Living in the present is the most real thing, and everything else is just clouds. That's it. Everyone cheered and walked away. Just as everyone walked away, Fong Saw Systems suddenly said, ding, congratulations to the host for understanding the rules. The backpack space is open to the host. Only the host can enter and exit this space freely. Free access. A place of desperate escape. Another nonsense. Suddenly, Lin Hai, who was overjoyed, became unsteady and fell directly from the railing. Nima. Pft. A few people not far away were confused when they saw Lin Hai suddenly fall into the sea. Luffy asked in confusion, the cry just now was from Lin Hai, right? Sanji took a deep breath of cigarette and asked, is it because we despised him just now that he couldn't think of jumping into the sea? Usopp said, Lin Hai shouldn't be that fragile, right? Zoro said speechlessly, stop talking and quickly see if he is okay. At this time, there were several fish in the sea. They were biting the bait on the fishing rod in Lin Hai's hand, but they couldn't bite it no matter how hard they tried. The culprit had now fallen into the sea. Then, a group of fish all swam over and prepared to slap Lin Hai with their tails in revenge for teasing them just now. That's right, when Lin Hai was fishing just now, he was practicing his dominance of knowledge and color, and kept teasing the fish with the fishing rod in his hand. At this time, Lin Hai, who had fallen into the sea, saw that these fish dared to come over to challenge him, so Lin Hai raised his middle finger at them. Although the fish didn't understand what it meant, they could somehow feel that the humans in front of them were insulting them. Then, a group of fish all rushed over, ready to beat Lin Hai. Fortunately, Lin Hai was changing himself, determined not to kill indiscriminately, and quickly adjusted his mentality. Then Lin Hai made a face at the school of fish. As a result, the fish school was pissed off. I saw a man swimming quickly on the snowy sea near the Golden Merly, chasing a school of fish behind him. Luffy on the boat watched this scene with bright eyes and exclaimed, I really want to go swimming with Lin Hai, but unfortunately I can't swim. Hey, let's play this game too, everyone. You bastard, are you boring? Sanji kicked Luffy, then turned to Zoro with a confused look on his face. What is Lin Hai doing? Sauron said speechlessly, are you an idiot? Lin Hai is being chased by a school of fish. Usopp nodded thoughtfully and said, Lin Hai is sometimes more troublemaking than Luffy. Do you even want to beat him up? Luffy stood at the railing and said excitedly, stupid fish, you can't catch up with Lin Hai, ha ha ha. Lin Hai, who was swimming in the sea, turned to look at Luffy and replied, of course, I am a swimming champion. You fishes, you haven't eaten yet, come and chase me, ha ha ha. Schools of fish. This human being is so disgusting, it really makes me mad. Why can't we fish swim this human? Is he a fishman? Probably not, he doesn't have the characteristics of a fish. Don't worry, let's catch up with him first. At this time, Zoro, who was on the boat, heard what Lin Hai called the champion. When he was about to take off his clothes and compete with Lin Hai, he was directly stopped by Sanji. Sanji was really powerless and could only say angrily, are you going back? Don't cause any more trouble. Really? After being chased by a school of fish in the sea for a long time, Lin Hai used his power to return to the boat. At the railing, Lin Hai found that the fish were still gathered under the boat, looking at him eagerly. Then, Lin Hai mocked the group of fish again, singing and dancing, la 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 Damasha, la la la, lick, lick, lick. For a moment, Luffy and Usopp started singing and dancing with Lin Hai. Sanji and Zoro, who were standing aside, saw this scene with their eyes twitching. After singing for a while, Lin Hai opened his zipper and released water to the fish. School of fish. What is he going to do? I don't know, huh? What is that? No, is this a gun? I've seen humans use guns, but this. Disperse quickly. At this time, Wei Wei, who happened to be passing by, saw this scene and screamed, which startled Lin Hai. Then, Lin Hai fell into the sea again. Fortunately, Lin Hai's abilities were easy to use. As soon as he sat back on the deck, Wei Wei blushed and stepped forward and asked, are you okay? Lin Hai waved his hand and said, what can happen to me? It felt like water was all over his face, so Lin Hai pulled Wei Wei's skirt to wipe his face. Wei Wei immediately covered her skirt and screamed again, while Sanji on the other side began to transform into a beast again and roared on the other side. Lin Hai said depressedly, I say Wei Wei, as a princess of a country, you should be calm and calm. Can you not be surprised? Wei Wei said speechlessly, aren't you cold just wearing short sleeves? It's snowing now. After hearing what Wei Wei said, Luffy and Usopp on the side suddenly trembled. Hiss, it's so cold. X2. Sanji exclaimed, did you just react now? Lin Hai, who was sitting on the ground, just felt a little cold. Now when Wei Wei reminded him, he immediately said, cold. It's really a little cold. Sanji turned around and exclaimed, so you just realized it. Just as he was taking a few steps forward, Lin Hai remembered, where was the school of fish he had just teased. Lin Hai immediately exclaimed, you stinky fish, don't run away, I haven't had enough fun yet. Sanji exclaimed again, you are an idiot. Chapter 70. Swallowing the Sun and the Moon, Swallowing Everything. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, the Meili finally arrived near Tsugu Island. What was unexpected was that the Meili was surrounded by many ships. Because of Lin Hai's reminder, everyone noticed the current situation. I saw a man standing on a boat not far away, whose height was almost the same as his body width. He was holding a knife with a barbecue on the knife. He was eating and then swallowed the knife together. Lin Hai, who was on the Meili, turned to look at Luffy. Luffy, that guy is more greedy than you. Luffy exclaimed, is that guy a monster? He even eats knives. At this time, Valpo said, Mulha, are those in front of you pirates? I am Valpo, the king of Drum Island, and your boat is mine now. Ah, I'm so hungry. Luffy objected, don't. Seeing that Valpo was about to take action, Lin Hai quickly said, wait. Lin Hai quietly winked at everyone, then turned to look at Valpo and said, dear King Valpo, I am your loyal follower. Are you hungry? Can I treat you to something delicious? Luffy said with disgust on his face, Lin Hai, what is he doing? He is a loyal follower of that guy who makes people feel very annoying. Is this true? Sanji said to Luffy, don't be stupid, let's see what Lin Hai wants to do first. Valpo originally waited for the other party to object, then jumped directly onto the Mary and ate their ship, but suddenly a man came in front of him who said he was his loyal follower and wanted to follow him, and also said he wanted to treat him to food. Thinking of this, Valpo wanted to see what the man in front of him wanted to do. Valpo said, would you please give me something to eat? Lin Hai nodded and said, yes, I have heard of you before. You can swallow the sun and the moon with your mouth, and swallow everything, right? Nani? The Straw Hat crew member exclaimed. And Luffy asked with eyes shining, really? Swallow the sun and moon. Can you show it to us? Zoro held Luffy speechlessly and said, that's enough for you. How could such a thing happen? At this time, Valpo was stunned for a moment after hearing what Lin Hai said, and then smiled, Muhaha, swallowing the sun and the moon, swallowing everything. Your description is very appropriate, so I will allow you to be my follower. By the way, what do you want to treat me to? I'm just hungry, haha. Lin Hai said, yes, King Valpo, just look up at the sky and open your mouth, and the food will come right away. Muha. Valpo asked doubtfully, is this really possible? Having said that, Valpo has already done that. Room. In an instant, a wooden barrel appeared above Valpo. This barrel was very interesting, how to say. Usopp looked at the barrel and said, why do I feel that barrel is so familiar? Zoro also replied, I also feel inexplicably familiar. Sanji then remembered and exclaimed, isn't that our toilet? Could it be? Everyone vaguely guessed what Lin Hai wanted to do, and they were all shocked. However, although Valpo heard these words, he had already swallowed the entire barrel. Then, his face began to become distorted. Ding, congratulations to the host for completing a coquettish operation. The behavior of rewarding the host has a certain chance of disgusting the opponent. It doesn't matter what the reward is, the most important thing at this moment is to be happy. Bah, bang, bang. Lin Hai clapped his hands after seeing Valpo swallowing the barrel. Lin Hai applauded and sighed, so awesome, Valpo, you really can swallow everything. You are simply unprecedented and unprecedented. Luffy pointed his finger at Valpo with fear on his face and said, "That guy ate all our food at night. He is really powerful, ugh. Aha." Everyone was disgusted. Walbo stared at Lin Hai with a gloomy face and said, "Boy, you are finished." Before he finished speaking, Valpo was kicked away by Lin Hai, then everyone's ears were still ringing with Valpo's voice, "I will come back again." When Lin Hai returned to his ship, he saw everyone looking at him stupidly. Lin Hai said speechlessly, "My temper has improved now and I didn't kill him." "Why are you looking at me like this?" Sanji exclaimed, "Is this the point? You're more cruel than cutting him down." Usopp nodded and said, "Lin Hai, you still need to change your temper. We have no enmity with them." Luffy echoed, "Lin Hai, please don't mess around, okay?" Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, "What's going on with you? We are pirates. Do I need to see if he is a good person before I beat him? It's really inexplicable, huh?" At this time, Wei Wei stepped forward and explained, "Everyone, if Lin Hai hadn't beaten him away just now, he would have eaten our boat." "Eat our ship?" X3. Wei Wei nodded and said, "Valpo is a swallowing ability user. Moreover, I heard that some time ago, Valpo was attacked by a group of pirates, and then Valpo fled the country with his army. He should have come back just now and stopped midway. Meet us." "Ha ha." Luffy suddenly laughed and said, "So that's it, Lin Hai, you are indeed a good person." Sanji pondered, "By the way, what are we going to do with the toilet tonight?" Lin Hai raised his eyebrows and said, "Why don't you go find Valpo and ask for it back?" Sauron smiled and said, "Lin Hai, you also kick him to Valpo." Before Zoro could finish speaking, Sanji shouted, "What did you say, you bastard?" Zoro replied, "Want to fight?" Lin Hai said speechlessly, "Everyone, it's important to find a doctor for Nami. Please be mature, okay? You are the least qualified to say this, okay?" Everyone yelled. Soon, the melee sailed into the coastal entrance of Tsugu Island. Looking at the people on the icebergs on both sides, they all looked disgusted, making everyone on the melee couldn't help but become nervous. "Pirates, are you sent back by that rubbish Waldo? Pirates, get out of this country, you are not welcome here. That's right, you pirates are the worst trash in the world, get out of here." Luffy on board the Mary wondered, why do they hate us so much? It seems that Blackbeard attacked here once, and Valpo was causing chaos in the country, and then Valpo abandoned the people and ran to the sea to become a pirate, but it's none of Lin Hai's business, but when he thinks of Nami on the ship, he can't use force. Although Lin Hai wanted to kill him with a knife now, after the knife was passed, who would take them to find a doctor? Even if he found him, would he still help save them? Don't take this risk. At this time, Luffy said, "Although we are pirates, we have no ill intentions towards you. One of my friends is sick." Boom. "Get out, there's no doctor here." Yes, the doctors were all taken away by Valpo. It's really impossible to communicate.